Hey everyone, Dan here. We are over the weekend and it's a rare weekend video. Today we're going to look at Workhorse, and before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. Let's jump right in. So here's the 5-day view, and we'll take a look at the charts and then we'll jump over and look at some of the short data and just other data that's available that might give us some insight in what's going on with Workhorse. But I put a video out earlier in the week that was talking about this channel, and I think the day after I put it out, the channel broke. So I mean, sometimes channels don't last that long, but this one held for 1, 2, 3, 4 full days and then fell out on the 5th day. So for a stock that's been so volatile, the fact that Workhorse had a channel at any point in time, was helpful. I would say just sort of like keep your eyes peeled for channels building, because if you had caught that channel on day 1 or day 2, you would have had a decent amount of time to play it, and it had so many run-ups from the top to the bottom and vice versa that it would have given you plenty of plays in and out of the stock if you wanted to do it that way. So let's get rid of this channel since it's kaput, and it's basically like consolidating at the moment. In this, not this is not me just wanting to draw another channel, but I do this all the time. If you've seen the other videos that I put out, but this is just a consolidation channel. So it's a slightly down consolidation channel, but gives basically a good indication where if it can establish this sort of upper trend line here that it's been working on, then it can get itself out of this down channel, and oftentimes this sort of nexus point where the channel meets the uptrend, the movement out of there can oftentimes be quite aggressive, and so that's what we look for. Is it going to make a big aggressive move up or a big aggressive move down? Because the other side of this is, if it's holding to this consolidation channel, at that point it is to the top of the consolidation channel. So I think that's typically why the moves are pretty big, because it's either making a big move out or a big push back down to the lower bound of the channel. So I'd watch for that consolidation channel to break as we go along here. And right now, that upper trend line isn't really that good of an indicator, because there's just not enough higher lows to draw in a realistic upper trend line. It's just kind of a guess at the moment if it even holds those higher lows that it's started to make. On the sort of price points that I would be looking for, clearly this area where it is right now is pretty impactful. I'm just going to get rid of this channel because I feel like it's distracting. You had previous resistance here and here, previous support here, support here obviously, and support where it is right now, and then even drawing back a little bit further, you had a support zone there and there. So pretty good zone where we are, resistance here. So if it can hold this 1543 support, then it gives it a really good jumping off points. On the upper side, if you're going to look for it to show some more price strength and buy into price strength like we've talked about before, I would look for any of these targets on the upper side. Let me see. Yeah, I would just stretch that up a little bit. Low 16s. And then up here. All right, so that would be to the immediate upside. Of course, like if and when it gets over those price points, we could take another look. I would really look for it to hold pretty strong at 1511 if it comes down and needs support there. And if it can't, let me zoom out just a little bit to see what this one looks like. Yeah, this should be another, probably right there, that 1483 area would be a really good zone to hold, which you could also treat as something like a stop loss if you wanted. So this would be sort of like my immediate price zone chart for the week. Look for immediate support where it is, get on top of that 1584 and just continue sort of some bullish momentum into those upper price targets, or dip buy on price strength, those upper price targets. Cautionary zone at 1511 should hold. If it doesn't, maybe like keep a really close eye on it, 1483 for a stop loss, if that's sort of like, in line with what you're trying to accomplish with Workhorse. On the indicator side of things, he had a big bump. I mean, I don't trust these indicators really in the after hours. I mean, because you had this big push up, no real price movement, which could either be a fairly bearish sign, or sometimes these just get wacky during the low volume after hours and pre-market. So much more good at indicating during the actual open market hours. So, during that time it was like mid-range, that's 53. So about what you would expect in a consolidation channel. So that kind of lines up as well. So leaving itself a lot of room for moves in either direction. Similarly here, it did have this big push up during the day, but then basically drew back almost all the way to where it had been, and now is sort of flattening out. So again, kind of what you would expect with a consolidation. So it does have some of these like intraday wild swings, but overall, second half of the week is really just kind of consolidating. And so I have to see, where the big move comes from. The MACD basically sitting right on the baseline at the moment, so leaving itself plenty of room for a big swing to the up or the downside, whichever it may choose. Before we flip over to the data, I thought that we would take a quick look at the analysts, what they're saying, and not because we have any desire to follow what analysts are saying, but just to know that some institutions and other retail investors do follow what the analysts say, and so it might be drawing folks in one direction or another. But 7 analysts basically coming together for a cumulative hold position, and so the high price target there is 20, so it's not currently not at that price, but it's above the average and the low for the analyst price target. So unless there's some sort of additional movement that comes in from the analysts, this will remain the same and might sort of start to sway people to take profit or wait to jump in or something like that. But again, this isn't to say that I would follow what the analysts are saying, but more so just to know how it might be impacting other traders and the decisions that they're going to make. So we're always trying to figure out what other people are going to do while setting ourselves a really strong plan of what to do for ourselves. It's an odd mix of things. But anyway, updated data finally, that includes the May 28th or data up to May 28th short date, and Workhorse second shorted stock PubM, which we had talked about in one video before, jumped back up to the first place. But yeah, Workhorse 40.21% of the float being shorted, and that's just a very, very, very high number, as you know. For folks who might not have the context, I'll just say this quickly. Historically speaking, 10% of the float being shorted is significant, 20% is really eyebrow raising, 30% is like off the chain. So the fact that this is over 40% really leaves a ton of squeeze potential and opportunity if the price can stay at least sideways. Much, much better of a chance of it can be increasing in price. And if we get some help from something like a fee, which we'll talk about now. So the fee to borrow, as we finished out the day, was 11.9%. So double digits is like okay. I mean, this low in the double digits, teens is okay. I'd rather see a fee above 50% to really, really put some pressure on the shorts to close positions, because if you think about the things that put pressure on shorts, one is that the price of the stock that they're shorting keeps going up, so they are immediately underwater in their position, and then if the fee that they're paying to borrow those shares is also high, then they're like, it's a double whammy. They're underwater because the price is going up, and they're staring down the barrel of having to buy back more expensive stock, and the fee is high, so they're just sitting on stock that's losing the money while additionally losing the money on a high fee. So 11.9, nothing to sneeze at, but I don't think it's not gonna play a huge factor unless that, double, triple, quadruples, something like that. And we did see some closing of positions on Friday, It's not uncommon. I know that there's a lot of folks out there that think shorts have to close on Friday, but that's not the case. Folks may be thinking of something like options that have to that are in the money that are getting exercised, and what has to like progress to make that happen. I don't know, but just know that like shorts don't have to close on Friday. So that would be too obvious of a play to make, right? If that was a thing. So just keep that in mind. So we're looking for the fee to come up if it can. On the daily side of things, this short volume ratio is still staying in the 20s, so relatively high. What I really look for is like mid 20s to 30s. 30s is a pretty bonkers number, so you see 30s all throughout several days in this chart. Low 20s yesterday, so for whatever reason, definitely not as many shorts coming in, but still there's so many shorts already in Workhorse that it coming down slightly for one day doesn't necessarily mean anything. We'll have to see what comes through on Monday, for example, to see, okay, are they actually pulling back, or was this just like kind of a low volume kind of day for them and didn't really mean anything? It was kind of an anomaly. And the other thing that I'm keeping an eye on, obviously, is the fails to deliver. There's this big chunk here that's kind of suspicious. This is from the first half of May. We don't have the second half of May data yet, but this is when folks are buying shares, and for some reason they can't actually, they aren't ever actually delivered to them. Whoever sold them those shares can't actually produce it. And so oftentimes what ends up happening is the person who bought it doesn't know any difference, and now instead of holding the actual share that's traded hands, they are holding an IOU because they paid out the money already, but that share just can't be located, and so keep an eye on that for things like naked short selling. That's a symptom of that. But yeah, you do see it in several hundreds of thousands here. For a stock this heavily shorted, to be honest, I would probably be looking for something more in the millions for it to be a real indicator, but that's not that far away. So we'll see when the second half of May data comes out, since, the short interest did jump up so much. It'll be interesting to see. And the the shares outstanding, 123 million. The float, 115 million of that. So not also, I guess, in terms of like the fails to deliver, the float isn't as crazy of a number as like AMC, for example, has 500 million in their float. And so, they get, for maybe various reasons, in the millions of fails to deliver. But part of that is because they have so many more in the float. Sorry, I don't know what's going on with my voice. I'm going to take a little sip of water here. See if that does anything. I'm sorry, this is probably not that great to listen to, but trudging on, big institutional holdership, which was something else that I thought we would talk about, because institutions obviously, oh, that's not here, that's here, have big stakes in these things and don't want to see the thing that they're invested in shorted to zero either. So if you look here at institutions, what I typically look for here is basically really strong names that are holding this. So really strong portfolios or funds being invested in this sort of help validate it in the sense of like, okay, maybe like the company in their mind does have some positive upside, and so they're holding the stock. So BlackRock, Vanguard, ARK, these are very renowned names. Down here, some of these might be, and I just don't know it, that I'm kind of passing over. But Goldman Sachs, I mean, these are names that you see sort of in renowned fashion, and so they're some of the largest holders on the first page here. Granted, this data is unfortunately always so old. That's from March 31st, so we don't exactly know what changes that have occurred. I think if you went to some of these websites, I know especially at least ARK, you can see the day-to-day activity that they've done. with their buys and sells and holds. So, but it's a lot to pick through. But this is just to say, the institutional ownership that we see at this point kind of gives some additional, I guess, firepower or backing to the idea that Workhorse as a potential, as a stock that has potential, at least these funds kind of see that in some way, shape, or form. If I'm interpreting the reason that they're holding the stock correctly, which who knows. But that's what I see with Workhorse for the time being. We'll obviously keep an eye on that fails to deliver data that should be coming out soon for the second half of May. It's always, a bit behind, unfortunately, but at least that'll be closer to the present dates, and we can see if there's anything interesting there. But yeah, 40% of the float being shorted, really a significant number. So certainly an opportunity here if Workhorse can keep pushing. But we're going to have to keep an eye on the price action, keep an eye on the fee, and kind of see how those things can come together to maybe have a good moment here. All right, well, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Apologies for the busyness in my vocal stress this morning, but we'll keep pushing ahead. But anyway, yeah, I appreciate it. I wish you the best of luck in the trading week ahead, and I will see you in the next video.